This week, we've seen time dilation, gods brought down low, and demon hunting camping trips. Let's dive into what's on the pull list. We're going to kick things off today with Absolute Superman number 10, written by Jason Aaron with artwork by Carmine Di Giandomenico. The teachings of Jor-El ring through in this issue. I still really love taking the time to go back to Krypton to see exactly what happened and how things played out differently in the Absolute Universe for Kal-El. Kal-El actually gets a lot of character development, and he got a little bit last time we had an issue here too, but it really starts to come through on this issue as well. We see him as this dark storm on the horizon. He is now teamed up with the Omega clan, and they are kind of bringing the fight over to the Lazarus Corporation now, kind of like taking on Ra's al Ghul head first. And the way that Kal-El is depicted is just awesome. He is a force of nature that is just taking on the peacekeepers through and through. He is like not letting anyone stand any kind of chance whatsoever. It's really kind of cool that he is a beacon of hope, but also this foreboding, I don't know, menace, right? It's like that cool juxtaposition that he is both feared and also a thing of hope as well. So I really like the way that they're playing with that. This issue kind of shows a little bit behind what's all happening in this absolute world and maybe why Ra's al Ghul is going after Kal-El. And there's a lot of cool things that happen here, including some double crosses. It's really interesting. The series seems to be full of kind of interesting aspects here, and that's kind of one of the great things about Absolute Superman is that it keeps kind of zigging and zagging here, and it's making it arguably the most interesting of the Absolute books. Next up, we have Ancestral Recall number 1, written by Jordan Clark with artwork by Adagon Ihan. So this is a team that had done work previously with Milestone Comics here, and this is a new number 1 from Ahoy Comics. And I gotta say, it throws you right into this world where things that are happening to our main character, who is an artist, an elderly artist here, the things that are happening to him are really kind of like not explained necessarily. And what's happening is he's just going to get his medication, kind of a mundane, everyday kind of thing. But time dilation events start happening based on the transpirings of an AI company from a far flung future that are making him kind of perceive and be influenced by ancestral recall, hence the title. He's starting to perceive things that have happened in the past that are now influencing his presence as things are happening in the present that are kind of inexplainable. He kind of befriends his neighbor character who is much younger than him, and they kind of go on this adventure as they start to see that some of their neighbors are now starting to disappear and are very likely being taken by this future company. The dialogue is really snappy and it has a warmth to it, but I gotta say, there's moments where I wish that it didn't have that stuff. I feel like there needed to be appropriate use of the tones for the dialogue in some of the heavier moments that I think kind of fell to the wayside. I kind of kept that one note feel to it all throughout here. Not a huge distractor, but it's something that I feel like could have been worked on. There's cool artistic things all around here with the promise of a lot of, I don't know, cool ideas taking place, especially with the fact that it gets timey-wimey and there's a lot of cool things with how our main character is perceiving those things and how it takes hold within the story. So overall, for a new issue number 1, I think this has a lot of interest and I think it's definitely worthwhile for reading. All right, Birds of Prey number 24 came out here, written by Kelly Thompson with artwork by Sami Basri. This issue was there's not a lot of meat on the bone here. It's essentially an extended fight scene as the team really starts to kind of put the plans in place and execute on the rescue of Big Barda, who has been basically taken over, possessed by this tech duo of villains. And it's cool. I think that Sammy gets to do a lot of really interesting things in that fight scene. The art style feels, I mean, it is kinetic, right? And if it's fight centric, it definitely should be. It's very much akin to what some of the things that Dan Mora does in other books like Justice League Unlimited and Superman. So I really like that part of it, but there's not a lot of depth to the story. It didn't necessarily call for a lot of depth. We didn't need a lot of character development, but it was more about the fun fight than it was about any kind of plot movement and story. So again, not a integral issue, but I think it was fun nonetheless here. So if I'm missing anything since I'm new to this book, let me know in the comments down below. All right, let's talk Captain America number 2, written by Chip Zdarsky with artwork by Valerio Schiti. So we're continuing off of the pace that issue 1 set here, where we have this Cap that has been unfrozen, but not necessarily in the same thing that we've seen in the past. He's been unfrozen in this post 9/11 version of America, and in that same vein, he has taken the back seat to this new Captain America that is kind of embodying the, I don't know, nationalistic viewpoints that, the United States had at that time. And you can definitely see some of the tones and some of the things that Zdarsky is trying to put through here. However, I have to say it also feels a little bit like treaded ground at this point. We're only 2 issues in here, but it feels like a Captain America who is questioning his values and questioning his morals and whether or not he is a beacon for a nation or the beacon of the best version of that nation. Sheedy's artwork also feels a little bit off here. There's something that I really enjoy about it, but when it comes to some of the people in the book here, particularly Steve Rogers and the way his helmet fits on his face, it feels really off. I don't want to say that the book feels rushed artistically, but I've definitely seen Sheedy's work really, really shine, and I feel like it's not doing so here, and I can't figure out what it is. So overall, I gotta say, Captain America is not doing the things that I wanted it to do, which is really kick down the door and win me over really early. It's not enough to drop yet, but it's definitely got to do something with issue number 3 to pick up the pace. All right, Bad Idea is back, and you would have thought I've learned my lesson in the past, but yet again, here I am with Cul De Sac number 1, written by Mike Carey with artwork by Jonathan Wayshak. So this was a really interesting book, and I feel like I've said that before about Bad Idea books, particularly ENIAC, which actually did win me over. Maybe Cul-de-sac can do the same. This is a group of vampire hunters. Actually, the issue kicks off with these vampire hunters that are tracking down something big. We don't necessarily know what it is, but it's kind of like that big opening scene, almost kind of like the Blade movies too, where there's this big inciting event here that kind of kicks us off into the greater story. And they're trying to track down something else, right? They're tracking down these vampires in order to get to this other big bad. And we don't know necessarily what that is. We transition then over to kind of our other plot story here that's following another set of characters, which is a family. It's really just like this neighborhood of family friends who get together and they're taking their kids on a camping trip. And we know that there's something amiss about it. We definitely don't know what it is, but something feels off about what the nature of this camping trip is. What I like about this is that it feels like the Mike Carey that we had from like the old school Vertigo days and even the old school Boom days as well, where he had some horror driven stories over there. I dig that. I've been ready to see Mike Carey shine again. Not to say that he hasn't, but I haven't seen enough of his work recently to really have some kind of judgment on it. I'm glad that he's writing this book and it feels fresh and it feels strong and bold. Wayshak on artwork as well. He's like a name that is blowing up. Like, I mean, everywhere I turn, I hear some kind of podcast or some kind of YouTube show talking about the mastery that Jonathan Wayshak has, whether it's kind of like the K-Fam people putting on their shows, Ink Pulp, all kinds of things. I'm hearing his name constantly. He was actually at Heroes as well, so I got to see some of the artwork, and his artistic influences shine through. And of those influences, there are many. Definitely check this out if you're an art lover because there's a lot to take in here. Also, it's on newsprint, and that's kind of awesome. So, Cul-de-sac number 1, check it out. All right, let's talk Fortress number 1, written and drawn by Joel Vandekamp. So this is all about this a devastated world that's kind of overrun by these cybernetic soldiers where there is this war hero that has kind of been held in stasis kind of waiting to be awoken at the right time. And our main character who we're following and her kind of companion, this kind of broken down but trusty, repurposed cybernetic soldier, is kind of helping to protect him to kind of get back into the mindset and kind of like recoup and get ready to put the fight back onto the people that have devastated this world. It's a very foundational kind of story here. It kind of gives me vibes of what Michelle Fife was doing on Cobra, if that makes sense. And it makes sense too because this is also previously a self-published book here now that's now getting to see a wider audience, very similar to what Cobra was as well. It has this incredibly limited color palette, which has a lot of like greens and pinks, and it totally works for this book. It's like It has a cybernetic feel to it. It almost looks like you're like viewing this through an old school computer, if you will. And some of the dialogue choices here definitely make sense as well. The font choices, particularly. From a design perspective, this is a gorgeous looking book. I really loved seeing it. It pops off the shelf, you know, it really makes you kind of like, it demands your attention in a great way. Being that this is a new issue number one, the foundational nature of the story totally makes sense. And it definitely did enough to make me want to come back for more. So, Fortress number one, make sure that you check this one out. All right, next up we have Nullhunter number 10, written by Michael Walsh with artwork by Gustavo Vargas. So we're at the end of our story here, the cybernetic retelling of the labors of Hercules. And I gotta say, Michael Walsh's best attribute is that he lets the story breathe. This is all about Hercules, or Hercules stand in clay, you know, going up to Olympus, facing down his father, and really trying to right the wrong of his family being murdered in such a brutal way now that he knows the truth of that. The story is never overwrought. Michael Walsh, especially knowing what he's done in the past with books like Silver Coin and Universal Monsters Frankenstein, it's never overwrought. He only puts the words in there that need to be there to give the most emotional resonance, and he lets the artist do a lot of the heavy lifting. And I really appreciate that because Gustavo Vargas's artwork is perfect for this issue and this story. It's gritty and textured, but also it still feels, I don't know, biomechanical in the same ways that you would want a cyberpunk kind of story to feel. It just matches so perfectly. The story, much like the original Greek mythos here, is about the journey more than the end, though. So we've got to spend so much time with Clay as our main character, and we've gotten to see the people he befriends and how he betters himself throughout that journey. And let me tell you, this end cap is absolutely worthwhile. I loved Null Hunter through and through. This issue definitely landed the plane. Next up, we have One World Under Doom, number 6, written by Ryan North with artwork by R.B. Silva. I like parts of the narrative, but the reveal in this book feels so tame, and it really, for me, lessens the, I don't know, the character of Doom to just another villain, and that's just not right to me. It doesn't sit well with me at all. The entirety of this issue is really very much about a conversation or a debate between Doctor Doom, the Sorcerer Supreme who now rules over the world, and one Reed Richards. And it's kind of like those aha gotcha moments. They're trying to catch each other in those things, and they definitely do take the opportune moments to do so. However, this is coming on the heels of a Doom that has righted so many wrongs within the world and has really bested the heroes at every turn, and the heroes have acted, quite frankly, moronic through this entire series. So to have this debate now amongst the minds feels unearned because Reed Richards, we're told, is one of the smartest characters in the Marvel universe, and at no point has he proven to be that character. He has in maybe other books, and we know historically he is, but it just doesn't feel right here. On top of that, RB Silva's work only shines a little bit. There are parts of this that just feels like a clone of a different kind of artist here. It feels stale, it feels static, and the times where it does get to shine, I feel like it only does so like as a half measure. So overall, for me, One World Under Doom didn't do the trick at all. All right, let's talk Poison Ivy number 35, written by G. Willow Wilson with artwork by Marcio Takara. More than anything, this entire series has been about the personal journey of a lot of different characters, primarily being Poison Ivy herself, the flagship character. But it's really been about everyone. It's been about, you know, every single character within this book, and I love that about it. This issue reflects on accountability. And again, just like the what I was talking about previously, it's not just Pamela's personal accountability. Everyone has a place in the story and the events that have transpired here, particularly their home being destroyed and now being visible by the greater community, and the fact that now, you know, Jan from HR is basically dying, and Pamela has had to make these choices to become the leader of this cult, which she agreed to dismantle to Batman, and now she's going to have Batman breathing down her neck. All of these things are transpiring and coming together here, and you can see all of the decisions and the choices that everyone makes, and more importantly, the consequences of those decisions. Things are feeling like they're ramping up now. I don't know if this series is scheduled to end at any point, especially given that it's been 35 consecutive issues here, which is great, by the way, for G. Willow Wilson here. I love that. But it does feel like this is getting to a feeling of a natural end point here. And if it does, that's awesome as well because we've gotten to see this concise story. If not, I would love for them to keep cooking here. So this was another cool issue that really leaned into the character developments that they've done so well in the past. Poison Ivy, if you're looking for a character driven story, this is definitely the one. All right, Resurrection Man Quantum Karma number 5 came out, written by Ram V with artwork by Anand RK. And you guys already know this is one of my favorite books that comes out on a monthly cadence. It's deep, it's introspective, and it's very personal, but it's also sharp and clever, particularly in this issue. It shows the prowess of one of the characters that just kind of got pulled into the fray at the very end of our last issue here with the human target. And we get to see that the villainous character that we've seen throughout this story isn't necessarily the big bad, if you will. In fact, it's not that at all. We still need to see how that all plays out, but he's more of a catalyst than a villain at this point, as our main character, Mitch, the Resurrection Man, is truly more so fighting himself and some of the choices that different versions of himself can make, as he is now somewhat the master of time, right? And can see things and perceive things in different ways and has kind of merged with a different version of himself as well. So he's kind of playing this cat and mouse game with himself in order to kind of separate himself from himself. Yes, I know I said himself a lot here, but I kind of need to describe this book because, again, it's personal. It's all about the character of Mitch and the different choices he makes in different lives. The moments here matter, and that's what this book is all about. Anand RK's artwork is stunning. The color totally makes every page pop. It's Resurrection Man, guys. I love it. You definitely should too. Next up, we have Storm number 11, written by Mirway Ayodele with artwork by Mario Santoro. This is all about continued cosmic craziness. Storm is dealing with like the end cap of the previous issue where like all corners of the universe are starting to converge on her. We had the ex sword agents, if you will, that have been kind of like questioning her and questioning her motives and the place where she lives and some of the things that she's been doing, like her hidden prison outside of, universal viewpoints. And on top of that, we also have the universal constants of eternity and death and, oblivion, all kind of working towards, I don't know, kind of coming at her and figuring out what all this means. We're also dealing with the fact that two of our main characters within this series were either brutally murdered or at the very least heavily injured with Maggot and Manifold here, and we're starting to see the ramifications of those things happening. Narratively, it's a bit jumpy though. There's been a lot of issues that have worked out really well. This one just feels like it kind of loses focus on the greater parts of the storyline because there's a lot to play with, including, by the way, Galactus just chilling outside the house, which is a crazy thought to think of. As much as I know about the character of Storm, I kind of feel like we need like a pullback. We need one of those introspective issues again, because with all the ideas that they're playing with, we're losing scope of who this character is and how she's being impacted within the pages of this book. I need to see that again because I think the most successful issues of the series have done just that. Time will tell. I think this was a lot of cool concepts with a little bit more delivery needed. Next up, we have Ultimate Wolverine number 8, written by Chris Condon with artwork by Alessandro Capuccio. To me, this series has only two gears, right? And it's neutral or top end. It's kind of giving me whiplash a little bit because I want to say that this issue was awesome because there are parts of it that really are. Capuccio brings this manga-esque flair to the book, and especially for Logan, and it works. I really like it. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of kinetic excitement. There's scenes within the book here, particularly where the character of Gambit takes out all of the landmines outside of one of these facilities that they're trying to breach. And he does so in a really awesome way. And it's that kind of thinking that makes me go, oh, this book is great. But then there's like these kind of moments that should, I don't know, have some kind of emotional weight and resonance. And I feel like they fall flat and they don't do that. And it's not just from a reader perspective, but also the reaction from the characters that are actually in the book as well. So this is all about kind of our team of kind of cobbled together X-Men, if you will, trying to get more mutants out of this facility. They kind of come across one of our well-known characters who's on the cover here, so it's not a spoiler, Warren Worthington III, the Archangel, and things just don't go as planned. It just needed a little bit more. This was all about the action. This was all about the things that are taking place, and that's okay. But there needs to be consequences to actions, or there needs to be something that actually happens outside of just the big flashy big bang boom. It needed something emotional to happen here, and we didn't get that in this issue. So it didn't kill my experience, but it definitely didn't elevate it either. With my runner-up pick of the week, let's talk Wolverine by Chris Claremont, #1 by, yeah, you guessed it, Chris Claremont, with artwork by Tom Riley. This is without a shadow of a doubt, the freshest that Claremont has felt in a very long time. He's had the opportunity to work on characters, particularly within the world of X-Men, here and there over the years, and some of it really hits, and some of it doesn't really. It kind of feels dated. And this, while it is things taking place in the past, it feels kind of bold. It kind of feels fresh, and I love that about it. It's I don't know, if something works for me here, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is, and it might actually be the artwork of Tom Riley. I feel like his artistic style definitely has a classic feel to it, not that it fits within the stylistic choices of the Uncanny X-Men and Wolverine runs of that time, but it just kind of harkens back to a more classic feel for a comic book, and I really love that about it. The story doesn't have like this great end cap, but then again, it's not supposed to. This is kind of like just the action beats and the storyline that takes place again between issues. But I feel like it does get to tell a really clean, concise story that does fit very well between those time frames that we're looking at here. So it's all about, again, the character of Sabretooth manipulating and kind of just like torturing Wolverine as he is so good at year over year over year. The other thing I really love about this is that the character of Mariko really gets a chance to shine and really gets to show her prowess as well. And I love that about it. Wolverine by Chris Claremont. Who would have thought would be my runner up pick of the week? And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Daredevil Cold Day in Hell #3, written by Charles Soule with artwork by Steve McNiven. Now, this one was maybe a little bit more predictable here because I am a Daredevil fanboy through and through, but I think this is also worthwhile. It's an incredible homage and love letter to everything that is, the incredible Uncle Frank Miller here. It just kind of rings true for all of the things that he has set up for this character throughout the years, right? With his kind of boiling down and distilling of the character and building him back up and the mythos that he has put in place. This really is all about the relationship between Bullseye and Matt Murdock and all of the things and all the ways that Matt Murdock has been tested through and through and through, and how each time he is tested, he doesn't always make the right choices, but sometimes, some ways, his upbringing and his better judgment can kind of shine through. And the teachings that he had as a child really kind of, I don't know, find a way to break through the Matt Murdock that loves to make terrible choices. That's what is on display within this issue here. Charles Soule, I think this is his most successful Daredevil work that he's ever written. And I kind of love that it was him that got to come back and Steve McNiven to kind of show this old man Matt story as the two people that, that have been fighting over and over and over throughout the years, right? The character of Bullseye tormenting Matt through and through, killing so many of the people that Matt loves in his life, and Matt finally getting to have some kind of finality to that storyline. And also we get revelations of the things that have happened in the past that drove Matt to be in the place that he is right now. It was a really stunning issue. This was a great end cap. It was a great series. It was going to be something that Daredevil fans can come back to through and through because it's going to be an evergreen property. This was really great, guys. Definitely check this out, even if you're not a Daredevil fan. If you kind of like those Elseworld, old-time stories here that are kind of like the Dark Knight Returns type of things, you got to check this out because it was worthy of Top Comic of the Week. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read, and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.